Kasco, to me, is a family business. It really means doing the right thing for a customer and providing a service.
Pride. Kasco means pride to me. I'm proud to be part of a first-class organization.
I'm Sandy Farian.
I am Karen Riley.
I'm Rick Sklizacek.
My name's Paul Sklizacek. I'm the youngest of four siblings.
I am the third child of four and the oldest son.
The second daughter in the Sklizacek family.
I'm the oldest of the four children that are the owners of Kasco. Kasco was created by my father, Bill Sklizacek. How do you describe Bill Sklizacek?
My father was a 8th grade educated, brilliant man. He could figure out how to solve any problem. Sometimes he did it like a bull in a china shop, but he would always come up with the answer for it.
He couldn't go to like Disney World without running into somebody at least once an hour that knew him. He was terrible with names. He was always, after he got through talking to somebody, he'd elbow my mom and says, "Who was that?"
My mother, Bert, was the administrator.
She kind of, I think she was the rudder that steered the ship often.
We joked that he had all the crazy ideas, she had all the logical ways to make it work, fund it, make sure it was priced correctly.
My ma was always a little more concerned about the details. Certainly, I think probably more concerned about the money, probably largely because she was raised during the Great Depression by a single mother.
So the story was that my father was raised as a farmer and followed a brother into the Navy and learned to love boats and boating and the water. He never lost that love of the water. We always had a boat growing up. He taught us to water ski. We went out every night on a boat. It was interesting because he never really learned to swim till I was about in high school, and my sister and I taught him to swim. And when it was clear that the family farm was not going to support the multiple families that were left who inherited it, he lost the coin flip and was bought out. And after a couple of years, he married my mother and bought a piece of property in Afton that was a commercial fishing operation. And over the next 10 years, he dredged out harbors, built docks, built a gas dock, and created a marina.
The whole family was involved at the marina. We actually lived there on site at the marina. Our lower walkout level was the office, and when it was off season, it was also our play area.
We always laugh. We started getting paid when we were 11 years old. That doesn't mean we didn't work before we were 11 years old.
If there was a job to be done and you were in any fashion old enough to do it, you went out to do it. You know, whether it was showing a car where to park, running down to the gas deck to fill somebody's boat up. In the early years of Kasco, it was, I'm going to show you where to put this screw, even though you're 8 years old or whatever. The marina was now fully built out, and there was very little land storage. In the 1960s, right before the St. Croix River became the National Scenic Riverway, and that was in 1970. And when that happened, there was a moratorium on everything being built, marinas and everything, on the St. Croix. So that further locked in the fact that there could be no more boat storage, or he wasn't going to get any more land, no more slips, anything. So in order to keep revenue going, he needed to store more boats in the winter.
So looking for alternate ways to store boats was the impetus for the first Kasco units.
And so the ideas blossomed, the product came into being, and it was not separate from the marina. It was just part of the marina.
So he started working with an engineer friend of his, and they developed one for use at the marina, and the minute they had one that was working good, they started getting requests from nearby marinas who also had the same problem.
And so he knew that there was a demand for this that was not met.
It was a slow expansion to neighboring marinas, and then we started doing some more into Michigan and places like that.
So Casco started, of course, at the marina. And so in those early years, in the very first years, we were still living there. And so, as I said, our lower level was part of the marina office. And there was an old garage, actually, that was kind of their workshop.
It was a one-stall garage, and they would do work in there as time permitted.
And that became the original Casco kind of production. And then in about 1970, and we had just a double garage, so the production all moved up there. And then as within about 5 years, so we're gonna say the mid-70s.
They needed some more room, and they were adding this shed on the side, and because it was getting into the fall, they put down hay so that to stop the ground from freezing. And my ma said that it looked like a sheep shed. And she learned her lesson, because forever after, it was the sheep shed.
It was insulated, had a floor, but it was just a little lean-to little building, and it took all the production out so we could get cars in the garage, sometimes.
And then sometime in the 80s, he was able to move the production to a real building.
St. Croix Beach, very bedroom little community, no really retail, but there was one little building in the middle of the community that was a phone switching building.
That we purchased and used as a facility for, probably about 15 years.
We had a small, like 20 by 20 office, which had 4 or 5 desks in it. And then the rest of the building was production or warehouse space.
A unique building, concrete building with no windows, not a single one.
They made the best of it, and it actually ended up, a little lighting, a little happy paint, and some nicer furniture. Made that a good place to work, and the staff grew. They got more permanent staffing that was able to work there full time.
Off the coast of Alaska, an unusual pairing of people all have the same goal: save the gray whales trapped in the ice. 2 men from the Twin Cities have joined forces to keep these creatures alive until the Soviet icebreaker can come and free a path to open water.
The whale story started so far from where it ended.
My name is Greg Farian. I met Sandy Skluzaczyk-Farian around 1986, if I remember correctly. And I was living a summer on the St. Croix River, not doing anything, unemployed. And my girlfriend at the time, Sandy, decided that maybe I should get a job. And so she called her dad, and I started my first job working in the sheep shed.
A slow night on the news, and the whales were trapped in the ice in Alaska. And Greg immediately said,
I have a solution.
My brother-in-law, Greg, had saw it on the news, and he was an adventurer. That sounded like a good time.
And I watched the rest of the story, and then I turned to all the other channels to try to get more. I could hardly sleep that night. Ideas were just floating through my head. I was calling anybody and everybody I could think of. I got through this gentleman, fisheries and wildlife gentleman up in Barrow. He listened to me, but he basically said, I just don't have time for this right now. I've got whales that I've got to try to get to open water. And he hung up. Being that I wasn't getting receptance of being able to just ship some machines up there, I started thinking, well, maybe I need to bring them up there and show them. So I told Rick that, pack some machines, let's meet at the airport, and they want us up there. Rick wasn't as excited about it as I was.
I knew he was lying to me because he wasn't a very good liar.
He'd already known that I have a lot of harebrained ideas, so we've been around long enough for him to know that.
If I asked a question, well, do they got generators? Oh yeah, they got generators. Well, what size? Oh, they got the right size, It was all the answers. If you're gonna lie, you shouldn't have all the answers. But he told me that they wanted us to come. I did call, and I did know that they were not interested in our help, but I did know that we could help. And I knew Greg was right about that.
So we ended up at the airport with 60 acres, if I remember correctly, and we were on our way to Barrow. And we're flying into Barrow, we're just coming over Barrow, and I looked over to Rick and I said, hey, you know, it's not exactly as clean as I might have mentioned it.
We got up there, and of course we went in and finally got to meet with the person in charge of the whale rescue and them, and then we got printed materials, and we got, you know, finished equipment sitting there, and we brought it in boxes. You know, we're looking at us and we're like trying to tell them, it's like, you know, we might, we're a small company, but it's a small industry. We are the king of the industry. This is what we do, and we make a living at it. And this stuff will work. And they're like, yeah.
You know, why don't you guys go back to the barracks and we'll let you know what happens. We came back to our place and we were kind of just thinking, you know, it's probably time to get ready for bed. I was just bummed. I was really bummed. About that time, I hear commotion out in the hall, and I open the door and I see these guys that are knocking on doors, and I go, what's up? And they go, we're looking for these guys from Minneapolis. They want you back at the search and rescue hangar right away. So basically what they were saying was, we're gonna give you guys a shot. And so I went running around the search and rescue hangar. I found 3 generators, and out of the 3, I got 1 running. And we loaded it into the helicopter. We got out there and it was cold.
It's like 35 below us. We plugged it into the unit, and the thing immediately pushed all the slush back about 8-10 feet. And the first whale came up almost immediately in front of it, and it came like straight up like this. It did like a pirouette and turned in the current.
And there's just cheers going off on the ice, and everybody's jumping up and down, and it was really a great deal. So the head of the Fisheries and Wildlife said, okay, which one of you is going to stay out here tonight? And I kind of looked at Rick and I go, I'm not part of this. This is your gig.
My first night out on the ice was in a 4x8 plywood shed that they dragged out there, and there was no heat.
Hey Rick, where was Greg during all of this?
Oh, he was back in the room, in a warm room, in a warm bed.
So it was kind of decided that Rick would do the night shift, I would do the day shift.
Everybody was just really shocked by the reaction of the whales to these units. It was not what they were expecting. The de-icers bought them what they couldn't buy, and that was time. And it bought them a way to get them to move. They started following the de-icers to new holes.
And sure enough, the first hole we opened, the whales started surfacing in. So as we kept going, the whales kept following us, and it was all good again. But we were getting closer and closer to the ice shoals, and we needed a solution. In the background, the government, President Reagan was working with the Russians as they had a breaker close by. The afternoon of 6th, 7th, 8th day, I can't remember, we see the ship coming in, and these guys came in and cut the shoal down like it was butter.
The Soviet icebreaker had one last pass and got as close to the whales as possible, opening a path to freedom. Operation Breakthrough appears to be a success.
So Kasco outgrew that telephone building pretty quickly.
Then by this point, I'm actually in commercial real estate, so I was able to keep my eyes open for things on the market.
And had an opportunity to buy a piece of property in 1997 in Prescott, Wisconsin.
My sister Karen was able to locate a previous John Deere dealership.
And it looked like a John Deere dealership. And so I remember looking at the property with my parents saying, apparently you see something I don't, so I'm just going to trust you on this one.
We're just going to jump in and buy this.
And it's the same place that we still exist here. not the same as it was back then.
And it was a lot of money at the time. It seemed like so many square feet. It was about 12,000 square feet at the when we bought it, and thought, this is way more square feet than we will ever need.
Which we've expanded, I think, what, 5-6 times?
In 2006, we did a warehouse edition. 2013, we did a warehouse edition. 2021, and now finishing up at the end of 2022, we have finished a major project here, which was more warehouse, doubling our production space, and adding about 30% more office.
We started with 12,500 square feet here, and I'm not even sure what we're at now.
We have about 98,000 square feet.
The expansion has allowed us to build all of our products faster. We have more people able to work on it, we've got more inventory on hand, and we've got more dock doors to get things in and out of the building. I'm Trevor Johnson, Chief Operating Officer at Kasco Marine. I've been here since 2015, coming up on 10 years now. There's just so much more to manage to meet the demand of the customers today, and so we brought in a lot of skilled people to do that, and having space for them to actually sit down, work, meet together, collaborate, train, even just having holiday celebrations as a team and celebrating milestones together has been huge.
Obviously with the de-icer, we've eventually improved the product and came out with a newer design, and we were able to expand our product line by coming out with different sizes.
My father was very good at looking at this and saying, what else can we use this for? The aerators were probably the first non-de-icer product, because you essentially used it the same way that you did a de-icer, and you hung it off of a dock or a float of some sort.
And that just is intended to exchange oxygen in the water body, raise that dissolved oxygen to raise the health of the water. You're also able to take that same concept, turn that unit on its side, and use it to create horizontal motion in that water body. So those can be mounted on docks, they can be mounted on floats, just to create that lateral motion in the water, prevent stagnant areas from forming, and improve the quality of the water. From there was a little bit of a bigger jump, but taking that same motor type technology, switching out that prop or propeller to an impeller. And that impeller allowed us to create higher pressure inside of a pump chamber, and putting nozzles on that are interchangeable. You can have different patterns that come out of it, which makes a decorative fountain, which we call our J series. Similar to the J series, there's a VFX series, which makes a V pattern, and that allows higher flow, still decorative, but it gives you a little more aeration benefit. Once we had those products, particularly at the surface of the water, we realized they're a lot of fun and people love them, but then it gets dark and they can't see them. So we realized we needed to develop a lighting product line. So we have submersible lights that we produce here at the factory, which are mounted on the floats and allow you to enjoy those decorative products all night long. Sun goes down, you can go out and have a totally different experience along your water body. From there, we also realize there are opportunities for subsurface aeration, where you have a compressor, an air compressor on shore that pumps the air under pressure down to the bottom of the water body, and it comes out through a diffuser head and allows tiny bubbles to float to the surface, which promotes flow within the water, causing currents, and it's actually very efficient at deeper bodies of water. Kasco started doing municipal-focused products because our customers asked for it. They saw an opportunity to take our existing technology and put it in drinking water towers. It promoted healthier water, reduced water rage, stabilized the quality, and reduced ice damage. The thing about drinking water towers is it's a potable application and requires NSF certification. So when our customers asked for that, we developed the CertiSafe line of mixers specifically to address the NSF certification and make sure that it was safe for drinking water that was going to be consumed by the public. Additionally, we found that people were using some of our products to help out in the wastewater side, not just for aeration, but also for preventing clogging of intake pumps in wastewater, a lot of times in lift stations. So we came out with our lift station agitation system, which has been a really big help. It's a very cost-effective and practical way to solve fats, oils, and greases from causing clogs in your lift stations. Where will Kasco be in another 5 years? Right here in Prescott, Wisconsin, doing our part to move the industry forward and help take care of your water. Where will Kasco be in 50 years? Wherever our customers and their water needs take us.